we have our song, we have it all going. And we have examples of various things. Automated combinator, which is controlling filters and wavetable position. So format filter and wavetable position to create a nice cohesive talky type of Skrillexy type of dubstep sound. Okay, so we have that basically. Now, what I'm going to do is the final stage, which is how do you mix properly with ReWire. What I mean by that is, as you probably noticed through Reason, it is a bit of a limited software in terms of you can't use effects processors from other programs. Yeah, you see what I mean by that? So this is the way of doing that, and obviously most people who record and mix through Reason are going to want to do that because the effects processors in Reason are okay, but they're limited. So anyway, you'll see what, as I start doing this will make sense. So all of our audio at the moment comes through one audio input from Reason. So everything we got is basically coming through a stereo pair, because that's what we did. You remember at the very start we did create no auxiliary channel strips. Now if you remember when we did that, it came in, record, and we put the input as ReWire mix L and R. Now looking forward, you might realise what I'm about to do, which is use the full selection of other inputs, right? Now I'll show you what the sense of this is. If I was to go back to Reason again, and I'm going to use a section like this section now instead. Because if you remember, this sound, this is a combination of 3 different sounds. So it's that, which is a subtractor. It's that, which is a maelstrom, yeah? And it's also that, which is going through the screen distortion unit. So we've got 3 sounds all mixed together, yeah? Now imagine this. What probably would have made it better actually is to imagine it with a drum sound, because this is probably, this process actually is more useful for drum sounds, but we'll use it with this anyway. Now, who's ever pressed tab on Reason? God, you see what happens? Well, when you press tab, it goes to the back, right? Now this is the region that we've not really used yet, because it automatically sets itself up. But this, if you want to really use this to mix properly within Reason, then you will do it by doing this basically. Now what I'm gonna show you is when we set the combinator up, we started by doing this line mixer, right? And then I put in a subtractor as an instrument. Automatically what that does is it takes the output of the subtractor and it plugs it into the first input of the first mixer, right? But the thing about Reason is, the thing about record that you can do is you can cable this however you want, right? For example, just to make it easy, if I take that out and it disappears, and well, the first thing that happens is it doesn't make any sound anymore. Subtractor's gone, right? Just to show you, if I really wanted, I could, for example, just take the audio output and put it in channel 5 instead. Like I might have a reason for doing that, and then it would just be there in channel 5, right? So it just shows that you can do whatever you want with it. Now, but what I actually want to do is this. I say that I had an effects processor in Logic that I really wanted to use. Let me go to the very top for a minute, yeah? Now, what you'll see at the very top of Reason is this, which is your audio inputs and outputs, right? You can see that at the moment, all that's being used is a stereo pair, as we said. Now, if I go around the back of here, you'll notice that there's a load of holes, like a patch bay in a real studio. So you're going to start basically patching things where you want them to go. That's really what we're aiming at doing here, yeah? So, just so you know as well, if you go more audio, you have up to 64 channels to do this with. You're probably never going to want to use 64 channels, and I have only ever used about 10 or something, but just so you know, it's there, and it can be done if you wanted to do it really in a complicated way. Right, now what I'm going to do is, I'm going to go back down to my subtractor, which was here. I'm basically going to get hold of that. I'm going to start, all you got to do, by the way, is click on a hole, and it starts to make a wire, yeah? Then, I'm going to drag it up, it's going to follow me up, and I'm going to choose the next available audio output, which is there. So that's output 3, right? So now, basically, if you follow it, I've got, it even tells you what it is if you hover over it, yeah? It's connected to subtractor out too. But you can see now there's a big wire going all the way up there. Now, what that means is, we have, the subtractor still isn't now playing, yeah? It is actually, the sound is happening, the subtractor is still playing, but at the moment there's no way of the program picking it up. Now you might be able to guess what you do at this point. Do you know what you do at this point? Can everyone have a guess? Yeah, very good. So you basically do what you did at the very first stage. You create a new auxiliary channel strip. Now the subtractor is a mono instrument, right? So actually, last time I said do stereo, subtractor is only a mono instrument. The reason you know that is because there's only one output on it. When you see the master, right, it is stereo. So if you do the master, you want stereo. Most of the other ones are stereo. You go mono, and on input, I go to record, and instead of going ReWire Mix L and R, I go ReWire channel 3, yeah? Because that's the channel that I had it in originally. Now I create, and you'll see the new track which appears in here. It's called aux 2. But if I solo it, that's now my subtractor, right? Press bounce by mistake. Now, so I would actually label this as well. I'd probably call it something like subtractor audio. Or, you know, I would have a name which I would definitely then remember what it was. Now, the point of this is, now this gives me like a load of other options. And straight away, for example, like if I'm mixing, I will never really mix with any proprietary audio software programs. So say, for example, I wanted to have one of my decent plugins on it, right? Say I wanted to have my, like a Native Instruments compressor, like a VC76. Then this then allows me to use, you know, my Reason sound and compress it with a compressor that's a bit more, you know, high quality than the other things I'm used to. On the other hand, if I wanted to use some of the really cool creative processors that Logic has on it, say I wanted to distort it with a bit crusher, which I really like on Logic because it has that kind of grainy feel, then yeah, a bit extreme, but you know, again, it just shows that what I'm doing is I'm using a, you know, a Reason sound. So I'm using a Reason sound, and I'm able to then use all the capabilities of Logic, including third-party software, which is probably the best thing about it. So, you know, if you're really going to use Reason, but you want to mix in a professional way, you'll probably want to mix it with professional third-party plugins instead. Plus, like I say, you might have some Logic reverbs you really like, or some Logic, you know, bit crusher distortions that you really like. And it just shows that you can basically get fully creative with your sounds. When you know how to do this, you know, I would, if I was you, keep the stereo pair for all the things that you want to come through that you don't want to process particularly. But this especially works well on drums, by the way. So if you have like a drum kit which has got a kick, snare, whatever, and you want to actually separate the kick and put a bit of extra EQ on it or something like that, then this works very well for that. You bring it back into a new auxiliary channel strip. But anyway, that just shows you, after this, there's no more to do, right? When you're creating sounds, when you're being creative with both the softwares that we got, there's not really any further to go than this. It's like, you know, once you've done this, you have full control over everything from all the software.